What makes a film so intense that entire countries decide the world isn't ready for it? The 70s were a strange moment for cinema, a decade where directors stopped asking permission and pushed straight through every limit they could find. Some films were applauded, some were attacked, and a few were quietly pushed underground. Today we're looking back at 12 titles that didn't just upset viewers. They rattled the rulebook in ways still felt now. Number 12. Cannibal Holocaust, 1979. This was the film that made some audiences wonder if they should even be watching it. Cannibal Holocaust wasn't just another jungle adventure. It was a documentary-style experiment that looked so real. Authorities stepped in before the public could make up their minds. The idea was simple but daring. A team of filmmakers goes deep into unfamiliar territory and is never seen again. Later, their recorded footage appears, showing a journey that spirals into chaos. The problem wasn't a single scene, it was the overall realism. The camera felt too close, too unfiltered, too spontaneous for comfort. When it premiered in Italy, authorities didn't just review it, they seized the reels. The director had to prove his cast was alive to calm the storm. Even after that, several countries decided the film pushed past what viewers should experience, placing bans or heavy restrictions on screenings. Copies began circulating through rumor and curiosity, often on worn-out tapes that only made the imagery feel even more unsettling. Fans debated whether the film was a critique of reckless adventurers or simply an experiment that went too far. Critics agreed on one thing: few films from the 70s created such a powerful reaction. Cannibal Holocaust endures because it feels like a warning, not about the jungle, but about what can happen when storytelling becomes too convincing for its own good. Number 11. Salò, or the 120 Days of Sodom, 1975. Some films test patience. Salò tested limits people didn't even know they had. It wasn't designed as entertainment. It was built as a mirror held up to systems of control, showing how power can twist ordinary situations into something chilling. That approach alone would have caused debate. What truly set Salò apart was its unbroken intensity. Scene after scene, the film refused to offer relief, crafting an atmosphere that felt heavy, grim, and deliberately challenging. Authorities around the world responded fast. In Italy, the film was seized before it could reach wide audiences. Across Europe, councils and committees declared the imagery far too extreme, banning it outright, or allowing only heavily edited versions that removed entire sections. Even places that typically allowed bold cinema hesitated. The bans only fed the legend. Viewers who managed to find a screening described it not as a movie, but as an ordeal. It became known as a kind of cinematic trial, something only the most determined viewers attempted. Yet the film had defenders. Some called it an important message about authority and human endurance. Others insisted the delivery overshadowed the meaning. Decades later, Salò remains a symbol of how far filmmaking can go when it refuses to compromise. Whether one sees it as vital commentary or simply too harsh, its impact is undeniable. It proved that cinema could unsettle not through surprise, but through relentless focus. Number 10. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. Few films carried a reputation as frightening as this one, and what makes that reputation remarkable is how little it actually shows. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre built its fear through suggestion. Hot Texas air, a house filled with odd details, and a family that defied explanation. Everything looked rough, worn in, and strangely believable. That authenticity became both its strength and its curse. Viewers swore they witnessed scenes far more graphic than what was truly on screen. The sound design, the quick cuts, the chaotic atmosphere created the illusion of non-stop intensity. Censorship boards didn't check the technicalities. They focused on the feeling, and the feeling, they decided, was too overwhelming. In the United Kingdom, the film was refused certification. Without that approval, no legal screenings could take place. Other countries followed suit, limiting access or placing long-lasting restrictions on circulation. As the legend grew, so did demand. Fans traded copies that looked like they had survived the same conditions as the characters. By the time the film finally re-entered mainstream availability decades later, It carried an almost mythical status. Was it the scariest film ever made? Many said yes, but what impressed critics most was how the movie used atmosphere instead of spectacle. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre remains a reminder that suggestion can be more powerful than anything explicit. Number 9. The Exorcist, 1973. When The Exorcist first screened, audiences weren't prepared. Viewers left theaters pale, shaken, and convinced they had seen something beyond ordinary storytelling. The film followed a girl experiencing strange and troubling changes, and two individuals trying to understand what was happening to her. But the presentation was what made it unforgettable. Every sound, every shift in lighting, every quiet moment was crafted to build a sense of dread that lingered long after the credits rolled. Reports poured in from theaters of viewers stepping outside for fresh air, calling friends for reassurance, or leaving halfway through. Ambulances waited outside packed screenings. Newspaper headlines spread stories of fainting and panic. Whether every account was accurate didn't matter. The myth had already formed. Various regions responded with restrictions. Some councils in the United Kingdom refused to allow the film at all. Others demanded it be shown only in specific locations. Across different countries, edited versions were released to meet local guidelines. The stricter the reaction, the more people wanted to see it. The Exorcist still ranks among the most discussed films of the 70s because it struck at something deeper than scares. It captured the terror of losing control, of watching a situation crumble while searching for answers. Even now, viewers remember when older relatives warned them not to watch it. Few films have blended psychological suspense and cultural impact so effectively. Number 8. A Clockwork Orange, 1971. A Clockwork Orange didn't just arrive in theaters. It exploded into public conversation. Set in a near-future landscape full of style and uneasy energy, the film followed a young troublemaker whose rebellious actions disrupt society. The story was bold, but what truly unsettled audiences was the tone. The movie mixed elegance with chaos, presenting scenes in a way that felt both artistic and alarming. In Britain, the reaction grew quickly. News outlets began reporting copycat incidents, some exaggerated, some unverified, all linked by rumor. Headlines suggested the film inspired mischief among teenagers who imitated the main character's fashion and attitude. Whether the stories were precise or not became irrelevant. The film itself turned into a symbol for everything adults feared about youth culture. The government never banned it. Instead, director Stanley Kubrick asked the studio to withdraw it from circulation. The pressure, the rumors, and concern for his family's safety convinced him it was the best option. That decision changed everything. Suddenly, the film wasn't merely controversial, it was forbidden. For nearly 3 decades, audiences in the United Kingdom accessed it only through imported tapes passed between friends, each copy fuzzier than the last. Students whispered about secret screenings. Critics debated whether the film warned against controlling societies or celebrated rebellion. When it finally returned in the late 1990s, it was framed as a masterpiece misunderstood in its time. But the outlaw period cemented its legacy. Few films have been both praised and feared so intensely. Number 7. I Spit on Your Grave, 1978. This film became one of the most debated titles of the entire decade, not because of any single moment, but because of how relentlessly it pushed viewers into discomfort. The story followed a young writer who travels to a quiet countryside retreat, only for her peaceful escape to collapse into a terrifying ordeal. What made the film stand out was not the events themselves, but the way the camera refused to look away, forcing audiences to sit with every shift in mood. When it arrived in theaters, critics reacted instantly. Some called it irresponsible. Others said it was an unflinching portrait of resilience. That disagreement ignited a wave of controversy. Censorship boards across several regions refused distribution, and in the United Kingdom, the film became part of the infamous video nasties panic. Tapes were seized. Stores were warned. Discussions often turned heated, with supporters claiming it portrayed survival and inner strength, While detractors argued it crossed a line no film should cross, but something unexpected happened. Instead of fading, the movie grew more famous through whispers. University dorms shared it as a kind of endurance test, and late-night screenings were attended by viewers curious about the uproar. The film's legacy survives not because of its harshness, but because of the conversation it sparked. It forced viewers to question where storytelling ends and shock tactics begin, a debate still relevant today. For some, it remains a symbol of bold filmmaking. For others, it is a film they can appreciate only once, with no desire to revisit. Number 6. Elsa, She-Wolf of the SS, 1975. If there was ever a film designed to provoke, this one embraced that role with absolute confidence. Set in a fictional compound during a turbulent era, the story followed a commanding figure whose strict and unyielding methods created an atmosphere of constant fear. The tone was intentionally exaggerated, leaning into exploitation tropes of the decade with full force. Audiences reacted immediately. Critics called it outrageous, intense, and unapologetically extreme. Censorship boards were even harsher. In Germany, the film was banned entirely. In the United Kingdom, it was denied certification, effectively blocking any legal screenings. Many other countries issued similar rulings. Even when edited versions appeared, they were often rejected for still being too much for public distribution. Despite this, or perhaps because of it, the film became a staple of underground cinema. Fans passed along VHS copies like contraband, often describing their viewing experience as, "I saw it, but I'm not sure I should have." The movie eventually spawned sequels that took its larger-than-life tone to new environments, each one keeping the exaggerated, over-the-top aesthetic intact. What gives this film such staying power is its total commitment to shock value. It doesn't hold back, doesn't apologize, and certainly doesn't aim for subtlety. It stands today not as a respected classic, but as a reminder of how far 70s filmmakers were willing to push boundaries to leave their mark on audiences who thought they had already seen everything. Number 5. The Devils, 1971. The Devils was bold from its very first frame. Directed by Ken Russell, a filmmaker known for theatrical flair and fearless choices, the movie presented a dramatized account of a 17th century town spiraling into paranoia. The imagery was stylized, unsettling, and designed to provoke strong reactions. Every set piece felt like a stage built to confront the viewer directly, with no room to retreat. Authorities around the world reacted quickly. Italy didn't just block the film. Officials stated that if the cast or crew entered the country to promote it, they could face legal consequences. In the United Kingdom, heavy editing was required before the film could appear in theaters. Even then, several scenes were removed entirely and locked away for years. Other countries issued complete bans, turning the movie into a whispered legend among cinephiles. Over time, missing footage became the stuff of myth. Fans discussed rumored deleted scenes as though searching for treasure. Rare prints surfaced occasionally, drawing packed midnight crowds eager to witness the version that caused so much alarm. The Devils remains one of the most controversial films of the 70s, not because of one moment, but because of its intensity of tone. It pushed dramatic storytelling into territory few films had dared to explore, forcing viewers to navigate fear, hysteria, and power struggles all at once. Whether one sees it as art or excess, the film's impact is undeniable. It remains a cinematic storm that refuses to calm down. Number 4. Straw Dogs, 1971. Sam Peckinpah already had a reputation for gritty filmmaking, but Straw Dogs pushed him into a completely new category of controversy. On the surface, the story seemed simple. A quiet mathematician moves with his wife to her rural hometown, hoping for a peaceful life. But beneath that calm setup brewed a slow-building tension that eventually erupted into one of the most debated third acts of the decade. What shook audiences most was the film's emotional intensity. It portrayed the unraveling of civility, the collapse of safety, and the frightening transformation of an ordinary man pushed too far. Some viewers saw this as a powerful commentary on how people react under extreme pressure. Others believed the film blurred lines that should never have been approached. The reaction from authorities was swift. In the United Kingdom, the movie faced legal challenges under obscenity laws. Police even seized tapes during the video nasties era. Distributors attempted multiple edits, but each version faced scrutiny. Many regions simply refused to screen it at all. Straw Dogs survived through discussion and debate. Critics revisited it repeatedly, arguing over its themes of power, vulnerability, and human instinct. Film scholars examined its structure and pacing, noting how it transforms from quiet drama into a tense siege story. Though opinions remain divided, its influence is clear. Straw Dogs remains a film that forces viewers to look inward and ask how far they would go if everything they relied on suddenly fell apart. Number 3. Last House on the Left, 1972. Wes Craven's debut feature arrived like a jolt to the system. Last House on the Left followed the unsettling journey of two teenagers who venture into the city for a concert, but encounter a group whose intentions become increasingly ominous. What began as an ordinary day slowly transformed into a nightmare, portrayed with a level of rawness that shocked even seasoned moviegoers. Craven used handheld cameras, natural lighting, and an unpolished documentary style that made everything feel alarmingly close to reality. The sense of escalation, paired with moments of uneasy humor, made the tonal shifts even more jarring. Viewers described it as unpredictable, relentless, and emotionally draining. Censorship boards around the world reacted strongly. In the United Kingdom, the film was rejected outright and later included in the video nasties crackdown, where tapes were seized from stores. Other countries demanded heavy edits or blocked it entirely. Even in places where it screened, theaters reported walkouts and heated debates in the lobby. The film's tagline famously warned audience members to keep repeating "it's only a movie," a phrase that became both clever marketing and a genuine survival strategy for those who watched. Last House on the Left eventually found its place as an important moment in horror history. It signaled the arrival of a director who wasn't afraid to challenge expectations and set the stage for a new wave of bold, unfiltered storytelling. Today, it remains a film many approach with caution and curiosity. Number 2. Faces of Death, 1978. Faces of Death was one of the strangest cinematic events of its time. It wasn't a traditional narrative. Instead, it presented itself as a collection of unusual and unsettling situations from around the world, some staged, some suggested to be real, and all edited together to blur the line between fact and fiction. That mixture created a sense of unease, unlike anything audiences had experienced. People weren't sure what they were watching, and that uncertainty became the film's defining trait. Some viewers believed every moment was genuine. Others insisted it was mostly staged illusions designed to spark debate. Regardless of the truth, the film's presentation was so convincing that rumors and urban legends spread rapidly. Stories circulated that the footage was authentic, that the creators had captured real incidents, and that the film was dangerous to watch alone. Authorities reacted quickly. Several regions banned the film entirely, unwilling to risk the impact of material that looked too real for comfort. In the United Kingdom, tapes were confiscated during the video nasties panic. Even in places where it was allowed, the film was often hidden behind counters or sold cautiously. Yet, despite all the restrictions, Faces of Death built a global following. Viewers treated it like a test of courage, daring friends to sit through it. Its legacy lies in its power to spark conversation. Was it documentary or illusion? Clever editing or something more? That mystery is what keeps the film alive today. Chapter 1. Fight for Your Life, 1977. Few 70s films ignited as much argument as Fight for Your Life. On the surface, it was a home invasion thriller about a family targeted by 3 fugitives seeking shelter. But what turned the film into a lightning rod was its dialogue, tone, and the emotional volatility of its scenes. Instead of focusing on physical action, the film drew its tension from harsh confrontations and unfiltered anger between characters, creating a sense of claustrophobia that left audiences unsettled. When it reached censorship boards, the response was immediate. In the United Kingdom, the film was refused classification due to its aggressive language and overall intensity. Other countries followed with bans or severe cuts. Critics were split. Some argued the film was an exaggerated morality tale showing how courage emerges under pressure. Others believed it leaned too heavily into shock value and crossed a tonal line. The film's limited availability only fueled its reputation. Bootleg copies circulated among fans of exploitation cinema, many of whom described it as one of the toughest titles they had ever watched. Not because of explicit visuals, but because of the emotional weight of the story. Over time, Fight for Your Life became a symbol of the decade's willingness to confront audiences with raw, uncomfortable themes. The film still sparks conversation today, reminding viewers that sometimes the most unsettling content isn't what you see, but what you hear and feel when characters are pushed beyond their limits. The 70s didn't just challenge cinema, they reinvented it, rewriting the rules of what stories could look and feel like. These films were banned, debated, hidden, and whispered about, but they survived because people couldn't stop talking about them. So, which title on this list surprised you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more deep dives into forgotten and controversial film history, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. The next story might shock you even more.